everybody, this is Derek Washington, chairman of the Black Democratic Empowerment Project here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we're doing something really unique and fun today. We are going to be talking about politics and Black folks. First up, a non-Black folk, we're going to have the chairperson of the Clark County Democratic Party, Judith Whitmer, join us to talk a little bit about what today is about and why we're doing it. Judith, let's hear it.
Thanks, Derek. We brainstormed over what we could do as far as community outreach. The Democratic Party has a habit of only paying attention to communities when it's an election year. And I feel that it's very important for us to be doing community outreach every single day of every year. And this is to that effort and starting to have conversations in our communities about what issues are important, because I think it's critical that the Democratic Party be advocates for those issues and advocates for our communities and start doing the outreach and listening more to the people. The Democratic Party, as the big tent people's party, should be driven by the needs and voices of the people. And so that's why we're here today. And I thank all of you for participating. And I look forward to listening to these conversations more and more as we go along throughout a series of conversations. So thanks again, Derek. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thanks, Judith. And today, my co-host is my sister from another mother, a person who makes me laugh and think. All of you probably know her. She is known as Blackibus. She is one of the most real people you will ever deal with in your lives. Everybody, Aisha Goins.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you
Good morning,
for having me. One of the realest people you ever. That's just. I don't know if that's always a compliment.
That's like when somebody says, "I love your passion." Yeah.
How you doing this morning?
I'm good. How about you, sweetheart?
I'm doing really good. Great holiday. It was a little challenging for my family, but other than that, we came on top.
How did you handle it?
Mental health matters. You know what I mean? Like, you just got to invest in your mental health of your family. It's something we don't talk about enough in Black families, but mental health matters.
And I want to encourage everybody to follow Aisha on social media, because you never know. One day she's talking about saving the world, and the next day she's talking about, I got a glass of wine and I'm about to do it.
And you know why? Because being a Black woman is not a monolith. Like, I do not like people putting me in a box. All of who I am is how I show up. Why should we be doing anything else?
And when you show up, you show up.
Yes, because I'm hoping that I'm allowing people the opportunity to also show up. I try to leave room for people to be themselves. It's important.
Well, tell folks a little bit about who Blackibus is.
Actually, I go by Coach Kenna. So one of the things that I'm really passionate about is equity and inclusion in the cannabis industry. I started Blackibus. It is a blog. I started because I was a pioneer in this industry. There weren't too many Black women in cannabis in 2013. And I just wanted to give a voice to what that space looked like. And so from that point to this point, I've had over 50,000 viewers, and I have moved more into activism than just communication. And so now I go by Coach.
You have been a great coach to me. I know, like on several occasions, I've been like, I don't know what to do with my life. So let's move on. I am, so you know that afterwards, this is also going to be posted. We're doing a Zoom call as well, so you'll be able to see this video in a few hours. And I'm all masked up, paid leave in full. You'll see, because I'm at someone else's house, and I'm really encouraging everybody, when you are out and about, when you're around other folks, mask up. So we're hosting some women here, and I'm going to start with the ladies, because I'm so impressed with the Black women in Clark County in Las Vegas. And first up, I'd like her to introduce herself, is one of my favorite people, Mrs. Berna Rhodes Ford. She is a lawyer and a community activist, and some guy is married to her. So, good morning, Berna.
Good morning. So that's my introduction. I'm an attorney. I'm a community activist, and I just do what I can to make sure that we get people out to vote. And I think it is important to have our voices heard. So I'm happy to be here this morning.
Thank you. We also have Deborah Porter. She is Deborah Porter Landry. She is an author, a community activist, and a beautiful soul. And Deborah, good morning.
Good morning. I'm really honored to be here and to lend my voice to what you're doing. I appreciate that so much for the invitation. I'm a local Las Vegas. I take that back. I was not born and raised here, but I feel like I've been here so long. But semi-retired marketing consultant, as you said, an author, and just concerned about our community.
And Deborah's the type of person you can call up 10 minutes ahead and say, let's go to Grits, and she's in the car. All right. So now I am so honored that we have our next guest here, Quentin Savard. Yeah, you thought I was going to do you, huh, Councilman? Quentin is with Make It Work Nevada, which is my favorite 501c3 in the history of the state. Good morning, Quentin.
Good morning, Derek. Thank you so much for the introduction. I am Quentin Savoy. I'm the political director at Make It Work Nevada. If you've not heard of Make It Work Nevada, we are a policy-centered organization where we center the lived experiences of Black women and Black families to impact public policy. We organize around economic justice, racial justice, and reproductive justice. And I'm really glad to be part of the conversation this morning.
Thank you. Now, a very special guest, somebody who I've admired for years. You know, when we talk about holding politicians accountable and we talk about what makes a good politician, this man is the ultimate in that. Your constituents love you because you actually did the work. Everybody, Councilman Ricky Barlow. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Derek. Thank you for the opportunity, and very pleased and honored to be amongst a great group of men and women on your program today, and looking forward to sharing in some very serious and important dialogue with your viewers. Currently, I'm operating two businesses. I have a consultant company that handles land use entitlement under the name of LV Access, and I also am a commercial broker for Keller Williams Commercial Group. And so keeping everything moving as far as development in the community, because that's my passion. I'm looking forward to sharing from the business perspective as to how, in fact, we continue to keep the community and specifically Black folks moving forward in regards to the overall aspect of how we grow community from an economic standpoint. So thank you once again for the opportunity.
Okay, Councilman, I have a question because there's an urban legend about you. Did you once put little kids' jackets on turkeys and give out both at one time?
Did I do what?
Did you put little kids' jackets on turkeys and give them out at one, for holidays?
Did I put jackets on turkeys?
I heard. Okay, so it's an urban legend. Then I'm going to steal it when I run for city council.
That I put little kids' jackets on turkeys and give them out?
Yeah.
Yeah, to give out turkeys and jackets at the same time. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you meant placing jackets on turkeys and giving them out. No. Yes, I have distributed turkeys as well as kids' coats at the same time. Yes, that is true.
Okay.
But he didn't put the jackets
He
on
didn't
the
put the jackets on the turkeys.
Okay,
So
I
yes,
literally took the fact that you're asking me if I placed a jacket on a turkey.
that's what I meant. Yeah, that's what I had heard. So if you didn't do it, so when I do it, folks, it's going to be the first time it's ever been done.
No, it was bifurcated. Coats went to the kids, the turkeys went to their parents.
It's one of my favorite urban legends, I swear.
Were you
Berna,
close?
yeah, it's close enough, I guess. Berna, let's start with you. Black women played such a role in this election, and yet what I am seeing already is that it seems to me that other groups are already trying to claim this election, and I'm wondering, I'm hearing like, oh well, we got to concentrate on the white suburban women, or we got to concentrate on the Latinos. When I feel that Black women really pulled through this election, what do you feel was the role of Black women in this election, and what do you think Black women are owed?
Well, I think to start off, Black women play a significant role in every election. So let's not understate our importance in that. So we always have an important role. But I think there is, I think there's enough love for everybody, right? Like, yes, Black women want to be rewarded for their support, but there are other communities who have also come together to support. And I think our focus is on the national election. And so, I have seen appointments really that look like the rainbow. I've seen appointments that look like the United States of America. And that's what our appointments should look like. That's how things should operate. I do not want Black women to be taken for granted, of course. And I think we need to have seats at the table. We obviously have a Black VP. So I think we will want to make sure that our voices are heard when it comes to appointments and things that matter in terms of our agenda.
Councilman, repeatedly in the local Black community, the vote total in, say, Ward 5 is always the same. Like, it's roughly the same numbers constantly. Why do you think that is? And it's definitely not representative of the total number. What do you think we can do about that to increase Black turnout and, more importantly, to increase Black engagement?
Let me answer that in two parts. One, going back to the question that you asked, Mrs. Ford, we must be very careful in regards to competing against one another as groups within the same group. If the African American female vote basically showed a stronger presence than another, that's not to demise the fact that other groups did not play their part, because in any given election, it could be the white female, it could be the Hispanic female. And so what I don't want us to do is basically get into a competition within the same group, because we're pushing for the same cause. And so, I just basically want to caution us about that, because as we get deeper into this conversation, specifically talking about the party, this is one of the issues that the party has to face in regards to making sure that regardless of who comes in first, second, or third within the same push to get us over the hurdle, that it was a concerted effort, because we are one party. And so that's something that I wanted to mention in regards to my thought process, as Mrs. Ford alluded to. As it relates to Ward 5, the city of Las Vegas, the numbers being the same, it basically gets back down to the grassroots. We, due to COVID, we have to do things differently. But post-COVID, you have to get your boots back on the ground, because that's where the game is won. Boots on the ground. The GOTV effort, right? It's not just the day of. It's during the midterm is where the boots are on the ground. It's the preseason. That's where the elections are won, right? The preseason. We're going to talk about midterms as well, because that's going to be very important. Very, very important as it relates to all of the local elections coming up in the midterm. And so if you don't communicate and get engaged early during the preseason before the elections, these elections will continue to come down to the wire, basically these last minute pushes. And that's not healthy for the advancement, specifically if you're trying to build the party and make it stronger into the future.
Okay.
And I agree with Mr. Barlow. I think it's important that the Democratic Party gets more involved with the C3s and the C4 tables. I think that that's a lot of where the engagement is happening consistently. And I think those partnerships matter. What do you think, Q?
I think you raise a very good point. Understanding that there are obviously some legal boundaries between 501c3s and political parties. We are forward-facing 501c4, but I want to just piggyback on what the councilman said, in that you have to stay engaged consistently, and it's about boots on the ground. It's that and going to the city planning commission meetings. It's that and going to the county commission meetings. It's that and getting involved at your local school board level. I think what has happened is we have just entirely, what it seems as though has happened, because again, we are doing this thing of having to cajole people into action in order to make them understand, like, being engaged is a year-round activity. There's a really good book that I started and my dad encouraged me to read, and my dad's a Teamster, 40-year Teamster. So I grew up in this movement of justice building and equity building, but it's called Bowling Alone. And the premise of the book is that America's social fabric, how we used to interact with one another, even before COVID, the simple things that we used to do, like go bowling with one another or hang out with friends after a church event or something like that, we don't do those things anymore. And as a result, it has impacted the quality of life that we experience from a civic level. So we're consistently having to show folks and tell folks, hey, you got to do more than vote. I need you to stay engaged year round. I need you going to city council meetings, because those are the policies that you're going to feel in your life most immediately. Going to vote every 4 years is absolutely positively important. But if I can't get you at a city council meeting or a county commission meeting, you're not going to have your voice be heard on the things that most impact your community day by day.
And do you think it's because, so I want to talk a little bit about how we resolve it, right? Do you think it comes more towards the people not understanding how politics work or how their position in politics? What do you think, Deborah?
Oops, absolutely, I would say that, because I believe it's an educational piece that groups need to step up and fill. A lot of people don't understand not only the different levels of politics, but what the different offices mean and how those offices affect your daily life. The president is not fixing potholes in your community. So I think educating our community on the different levels of politicians, the different levels of administration, and what they do to impact your daily life. And then it goes back to what Quentin says, then I understand why it's important for me to show up at the city council meeting, or why I need to be on the school board agenda, or understanding the difference between the assemblymen and the councilmen and the state senators. So there's an educational piece that has not been, excuse me, I don't think has been clearly articulated. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be something that the Democratic Party or some of our other Black organizations should take on starting yesterday.
I agree. One of the things that I definitely noticed this election was that there was a lot of down ballot conversation that we had to have, right? Because we had so many judges up for re-election and up for election, and then there was the trustees, and then the state school board, and there, we had to drill down with people who didn't want to vote, who didn't think voting was important, to just explain to them how important the down ballot was. Right. So I absolutely agree.
I wanted to follow up on something that Quentin said about bowling alone, and I'm going to throw this at Mrs. Ford and the councilman. Quentin said that we don't do some of the social activities that we used to do. Also, I know that we don't go to church as much as we used to do. Generations have grown up without that as a daily part of their lives, or the twice weekly, go on Wednesday for Bible school, go on Sunday for church all day. I grew up like that, and I just don't know any kids who live that life anymore. So what are some of the ways that we can engage the community and do things like go bowling? Mrs. Ford, I know for a fact that you're very involved in the community. What are some of the things that you do to build community outside of the party that maybe work out later when you're trying to get people engaged in the political system?
Well, I think that's actually a really good question. And I will say, I did not go to church 2 times a week. I probably went to church 5 times a week, because I grew up Kojic, and I went to church 3 times on Sundays, first of all. And it was usually a revival.
Yes, Kojic.
Something every night of the week. Okay. So so if I had only gone 2, things might have been a lot different. But seriously though, there are still churches within the community that try to do things and bring us together. My church is Victory Missionary Baptist Church. We do things, on even Halloween, we have a safe night for our children, and we have teen ministries and youth ministries where we try to get those, the children involved. We have young adult ministries where we try to get people involved. For those who may not be religious, we have lots of organizations that do things in town. Of course, we have our sororities. I'm president of the Theta Theta Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. We do things in the community. And every sorority, every fraternity, we all do things. We have other organizations that aren't Greek letter organizations that do things such as Top Ladies of Distinction. You have your Eastern Stars. You have all of these organizations who are out there doing outreach and really trying to get the community to come together. And one thing I've noticed, because I am so involved with all of the organizations, is that a lot of the times the community does not come. You know, we even had, we went on the radio, we were with Commissioner Weekly, and he actually offered a laptop to teens who would attend one of our events. And you would think, oh, there would be so many teens coming out of the woodworks to, you know, to come to this. And we didn't see the numbers that I would have liked to see. We saw great numbers, but not the numbers that I would have liked to see. So part of it is getting the community to come out. Of course, we all think we're doing great programming, but there's some disconnect. How, if we think we're doing the great programming, but the people don't come, then there's clearly a disconnect. And we need to find ways to get the people aware of the programs and get them at the table.
Well, on that note, then, the councilman and Quentin both are sort of experts in that. I have gone to events of Mr. Barlow's where the place was packed, but he also provided transportation. He also provided lunch. So, Councilman, what has been, and I'm going to keep calling you Councilman because you're like my favorite councilman ever. What are some of the things that you suggest? And then, Quentin, I want to know from you. You have great events where actual young people, real ones, come out, not 40-year-old young people. So, Councilman?
Thank you, Derek. You know, it really comes down to, once again, boots on the ground and identifying your market. And so if I need to reach the senior community, then I get down on the ground and basically navigate my way through all the seniors and listen to them as to what is it that you need in order to attend this event, because I have various programming, I have various groups that will be here to service your needs. And if transportation is a hurdle, Derek, then I work toward providing the transportation in order to get them there. Same thing with the kids that I've worked with in the past. You know, what are the major hurdles that you're up against that could potentially hold you back from attending this event? And if transportation, once again, is the issue, then I basically work toward that and get them there. And then over time, as they basically build up their trust, and as an organization, you have to remain consistent. It's not a one-off, you know, where I have, you know, a pair of shoes to give out, right? But if I'm not giving out a pair of shoes annually, then, you know, once again, you know, it's that entire marketing component. And so if I'm going to give something out, I make sure that this is something that I'm going to continue to do during this month, during this week, or somewhere around that week within that month, consistently on an annual basis. And basically, I no longer had to provide transportation anymore. People basically made it a priority to be there because they knew once they got there that they would be able to receive something that was beneficial to them or their family. And so, you know, but that's also, once again, that preseason, right? I was there on the ground, you know, during that entire year, promoting and doing and moving and talking, you know, to keep that engagement moving. And so I believe, you know, speaking about the party, for example, though, that's one thing that we have to do a better job. And that's continuing to be out there, even, you know, when there's nothing to give out, you know, just the fact that you're out there and you're still educating and promoting. And someone mentioned, I think it was Quentin, in regards to the educational component, as far as, you know, the school board and someone not knowing, you know, the school board from the planning commission, from the city council, what have you. I started a program years ago that was called Project FELA, Future Elected Leaders of America. And it did just that for high school students, as far as we would basically take them to every aspect of the police department, the fire department, the assembly, the governor's mansion, the city council meetings, the county commission meetings, and we ended up in Washington, D.C. And so I'm thinking maybe that's something that needs to be brought back. Right. Maybe that's a component that the Democratic Party can have as one of their outreach arms, just that educational component, saying, okay, and now that everyone's on Zoom, right, you can do a Zoom meeting. Okay, today we're going to talk about the school board. These are the components and the policies, and this is how the school board operates. This is when they meet, and these are the type of things that they do in order to keep our kids educated from a school board standpoint, right? And you basically do that, hold those podcasts or have someone do that for each and every element, and then just continue to repeat the cycle, right? Because then people can log in and say, I want to understand how that school board works. Oh, let me jump on the party on Wednesday. Every Wednesday, they have a different segment talking about the school board, talking about the planning commission, talking about the state assembly, talking about the attorney general, talking about the secretary of state. And we have enough educators around here to basically choose someone to basically host that, to talk articulately and educationally and answer questions as it relates to those individuals who have questions. And so that's something that I would like to pitch out, because it's something easy to do. And it only take about an hour on a podcast.
Right.
Something to consider.
Quentin, we're coming towards the end, but Quentin, I wanted to get your feelings on that, and then Deborah, bring you into the conversation.
Sure. I was just going to add, I think what makes Make It Work Nevada particularly unique about getting folks out, particularly kids. I want to speak to the kids part first. We organize Black women and Black families. So kids are coming with the Black women that we organize. And it's been really good because we've been able to have conversations with young people about the issues that they see most present in their lives. We've maintained a pretty prominent, or consistent, I won't say prominent, a very consistent presence at Marble Manor. And we've even started reaching out at housing projects in Southern Nevada and Congressional District 3. And we noticed a very stark difference between the two communities. When we debriefed with our team after our last outreach at Marble Manor, we noticed there was a real void of community there, right? Like folks just weren't out playing. Folks were out, but they weren't out playing and having a good time the way that we noticed when we went out to Congressional District 3 at Landsman's Gardens. The kids all knew each other, the families all knew each other, and there was just a different sense of community. So I think that's one thing that we have to start with, rebuilding the sense of community. And that's not a political thing. That's a matter of just going out and making good conversation with your neighbor and understanding that when you were listening to someone, you're more likely to put yourself in their dynamics and their situations and empathize with the things that they are going through. Wholly, I feel like we've gotten away from that as a country because of the climate that we've been in. But we don't take the time to get to know one another anymore. And at our organization, we're very intentional about making sure we listen to people and that we ask them, what do they need to make it work in their lives? As opposed to coming around and saying, hey, we've got a meal for y'all and we know that childcare is an issue. Well, that might be an issue, but what else are the issues? We don't live single issue lives. So it's important that we listen to the totality and the fullness of folks when they're saying, hey, I'm having a hard time and no, I'm not able to get through to anyone. So I think what makes us particularly special is that we really put in the legwork of listening to stories and making sure folks know that we're going to be there and that we care.
I love how Quentin managed to make it work in there like a million times and then talk like an old head, like you like an OG from back in the day. Aisha.
I also think it's important to just show up. That's one of the things that I always tell people. They say, Aisha, how do you get invited to this? And who's inviting you? Well, guess what? People know I'm going to show up. They know when I get there, I'm going to work, and they know I'm going to work till the job is done. And so one of the things that I know Deborah and I have in common is we'll just show up at people's stuff. Whether you invite me or not, I'm liable to show up. That's one of the things that I do. But it's because we have to support one another. When we show up for each other, when we support one another, it says that you care. And when you just outright care, people will follow you to do the things that they believe that you believe in, right? And so just really quick, Deborah, I know that we're in our last minute, but I definitely wanted to hear from you as it relates to, I'm getting the cue to close.
There you go. Well, real quick, I know we're closing, but I would just say, let's pay attention to our marketing when we put these events on, because if you tell me you're doing something about the Supreme Court in Las Vegas or Nevada, and I don't understand how that affects me, I may not come. But if you tell me I got a parking ticket and I'm about to go to jail and they're going to impound my car, who do I call? Then I say, oh, wait a minute, I might want to pay attention to that. So that's my closing argument.
I would like to say thank you to everybody, because we, the time flies when you're having smart. And Councilman, I'm totally stealing the turkey with the jackets idea. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. Go ahead, Aisha.
And as we close, I just want to remind people just two things. Be consistent in what you're doing. Say what you mean what you say. And if you want the people to follow you, follow them also.
Thank you, Aisha. And please, everybody, go to Facebook and join the Clark County Democratic Party page so you can find out more about it. Thank you. Berna Roach-Fort, Deborah Porter-Landry, Quentin Savoy, Aisha, and my favorite councilman, Ricky Barlow. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.